I'm Ian Ansell, Senior Performance Analyst, Government Digital Services, and there's my Twitter if you want to say hello. So Data Studio, what is it? It's really just a one-way window into your data. To go into a bit deeper, there's no writing to the data, none whatsoever. Get this question asked quite a lot in that, oh, what if I break the data? Or what if I do something bad? Or can I collect data through this platform? Absolutely no way. It is a one-way window. You cannot break your data in any way. It doesn't write anything. It's tied into the Google Marketing Platform. I think it used to be Drive, but now it's part of the Google Marketing Platform team. So what that really means is it's just really good at working with Google Analytics data. It connects seamlessly. You can query your segments and your different views. Just a really neat, solid connector. And being Google, it connects to other Google products nicely. For example, BigQuery, Drive, and also local files like CSV. So it's a window into your data, and it can connect to a variety of sources, predominantly Google ones. And the real purpose of it is getting data to the people. The people that need it, the people that need to make decisions with it, or people who need to use it in some way. And it's just around pushing that data out. So the first use case I want to talk around is coronavirus, topic of the year and a bit. So coronavirus resulted in the need for rapid guidance across gov.uk, changed daily at one point, new guidance coming out, old guidance being retired, and clarification on what the user needs were as user needs changed. And it was just a fast-paced turnaround of things changing all the time. And on top of that, we needed to report on what insights we were finding. And these were held in a variety of data sources. And it was just around how did we get that, again, back to the people that need it. So when building a dashboard, starting with user needs is never a bad thing. Maybe I've been around user researchers and content designers too long. But the key design principles we use are kind of start with the user needs, like do less, which sounds bizarre, but like really important. Like don't go all singing and all dancing in your first iteration. Just like start with the basics. And that's where we kind of did. But what I'm going to show you next is not do less. This is the final iteration of many weeks and months. And that was kind of this long format report. Call it a dashboard, but it's really a report where the data is coming from a variety of sources. So we've got web stats at the top. And I will share. I'll do a full screen share of this in a moment. We've got a section looking at key pages, so the focus areas for coronavirus, how we're performing in search, both internal on the site, what people are looking for, but also what people are searching on Google and then getting to us about. Then got a section around user feedback, what are users actually saying and asking for. And then we have a section on campaigns. So if I just share this with you for a second. Where is it? Coronavirus Insights Report. There we are. So this is the big old coronavirus report. And when I say about it's very long, it is it's longer than we'd usually make a one-pager, but this is a one-page dashboard to provide insights across gov.uk, but also across government. It is shared quite widely. This is also dummy data or demo data, heavily salted, so quote these numbers at your peril because they have been altered. But we've got kind of page traffic, kind of where are people going on the site. So no surprise here, we've got red, green and amber list rules for entering England, etc. Report a lateral flow test. And then we've got increases and decreases. So what's going up and what's going. And this is kind of like the most important element of the report. Like 3 tables, like what's big, what's going up and what's going down. Senior leadership do like to see that kind of thing. Then we've got kind of some high level view on like how users are, how many users are looking at the content. So coronavirus is somewhat flattened in the past couple of weeks. And in terms of people going to the landing page, a lot more people kind of using Google would be my takeaway points from that graph, which we see organic search, many. We've then got a specific focus on key areas of coronavirus. So book a symptomatic test and book a lateral flow test. So book a test with symptoms, book a test with no symptoms. And then the business support finder. Those were kind of like, at the time, the key 3 areas of coronavirus that we wanted to look at. And also the decision was made to kind of normalize the axes of the graphs so they could be compared side by side. We then drop away from Google Analytics data into Google Search Console data over on the right, and a bit more Google Analytics internal search. So what search terms, writing search terms and search terms on Google. So this is just bringing in an additional data source, the Google Search Console, and throwing it alongside Google Analytics data. And then we have another data source here, which is a Google Sheet at the moment, soon to be BigQuery, but we're putting this alongside our Google Analytics data to show it in context, to show where are users leaving feedback about coronavirus, and how is that fluctuating over time, and what are the trending terms. So we perform some analysis on the feedback comments, probably something data science-y like term frequency inverse document frequency, just to get those kind of interesting terms to emerge. Getting rid of some stop words like and the. So we can see tests May. I'd imagine that would be followed by May 17th. People interested in what changes are coming up. And then finally, we've got the coronavirus campaign. So campaign entrances, and then landing pages, and just how the campaign performs. So you can see there's a couple of data sources thrown into kind of one page. And what you can do is you can share and schedule an email delivery. So this will send this out. You can send it every day or weekly, for example. So you can choose what regularity this is emailed out. But because the data sources are all dynamic, we can automate this email going out at 9 o'clock in the morning, which it does do. It goes out to cross-government 9 o'clock every morning without anybody having to do anything, which is quite nice. We used to have analysts producing this every day, but now it's a non-task. It just happens. If we go back to the presentation, there we are. So we're getting a few different data sources and pulling them into one big long report. It's automatically produced as a PDF and emailed out every morning. 4 main data sources. So as I was saying, we pull together different data sources because one of the benefits of using Data Studio or a tool like it, Tableau, for example, is you can put different data sources alongside each other. You've got Google Analytics, Search Console, then 2 Google Sheets. And then there's a variety of data blends, so it automates the compared to yesterday. So a lot of the charts have a comparison to yesterday, which is kind of hard-coded in using data blends. So blending a data source with itself, but setting the time offset by a day. The benefits, which I've talked around, of using Data Studio are that an automated daily email at 9 a.m. So that is by far a big benefit. No analysts need to go in and manually alter anything or really check that any data sources have updated. They're all built off either fairly solid data pipelines or straight connecting to the source data, for example, Google Analytics. Being in Data Studio also means it's like really quick to edit and iterate. So this is the end result of like probably hundreds of iterations, tweak this and tweak that. We'd like to see campaigns, so let's put campaigns in there. Oh, how's a specific page doing? Well, let's bring that into the key topics area. So really easy to edit and iterate. And now there's a preview function, so as you edit things, it doesn't edit a live version because that can be troublesome. One of the big issues, though, is there's no historic visibility. So as I was saying, we've hard-coded in our data to compare it all to yesterday. So we don't get any historic visibility without like scrolling through past emails. So that's not great. Something we should probably either look at automatically archiving snapshots of the report or rebuilding our data blends to allow people to like scroll through and see, oh, what happened in February 14th, Valentine's Day? Did anything interesting happen? The second use case I want to talk about is quite an interesting one. It's kind of how to access databases without having to write SQL. So this is something we use with some of our analysts. Rather than giving out like database access, and nobody wants to give out database access. It's how to let users query a database while having that one-way protector, that read-only access with no possibility of writing. I don't have a full example of this, but I knocked up an example of Stack Overflow comments. This is an example. So the real use case is real user feedback comments, and you can understand why I wouldn't be sharing that. But Stack Overflow comments is an open data set, and you can imagine that you wouldn't want people accessing your database through whatever database engine you're using, but you want users to be able to use that data. So if I share this tab, I'll just show you how you can use it to build what is effectively a kind of front end to your database, really. So we've got our user display name. If we pretend that is a page, I guess, would be closest to feedback, and then we've got text. So we can change our dates. So let's just go, oh, right, yeah, this year. Let's go September. What was happening in September on Stack Overflow? So we just changed the dates. Doing a live demo is always nervous. There we are. And then what that allows is users to either scroll and view the data, or they can also, if the settings have been set, that they can export it to a CSV or Sheets. So you can take this data then out of there to then do what with you, whatever you want, really. In terms of searches, you can do, like, I want to search for people who said, sorry, just because I can see that in the first one. So we've got all the comments from September that include the word sorry, and there's 4,500 of them, and we can then put that in Sheets to then kind of either enrich with other data sources or do some kind of analysis on, but effectively this becomes the front end to our database. And also it's very easy to add filter fields on. So I'll do this, which is we'll put in a filter based on user display name. And we'll just wait for the blue bar at the top to finish. Or not. So we can choose a variety of input fields, or if you've got one that you like the design of, maybe you've changed the font, just a copy and a paste. So instead of text, let's just put user display name. And the only reason I can do this is because I'm editor. You can of course assign other people editors, but people who have view access only won't be able to do this. We then got view, and there we've got user display name contains. And if you wanted, you could also go with equals, starts with, regex, or provide a list of things. And so that's kind of how with a few database data sets, we provide this level of access when we don't want to have to open up the database to everybody in government or in a department, but we do want them to be able to have access to the data. It's just certainly easier than trying to navigate some of the AIM roles in Google Cloud Platform or AWS. Certainly a lot easier than adding users that way. And you can just share it using kind of a Google Share. So at the minute, you can add people manually to edit or view, manage access. So at the minute, off. So I could do it. Anyone in the Cabinet Office can view, or anyone can edit. Anyone on the internet can view or edit. So anyone on the internet, save that. If you have, or you can change it to anyone with a link. So the difference between these two is this one is searchable. So if you were to search, stack up whatever Google foo is required to get this to appear in the Google search results, it would appear, but this, it wouldn't appear in Google search results. So anyone with the link. And then you can email this to your friends, your colleagues, so on and so forth, and they will be able to manipulate these fields to filter down the data to get what they needed, and with the setting, export to Sheets or download a CSV. Back to the presentation. we are. So in summary, I would say that Google Data Studio has been absolutely great for sharing data. It's just really enabled us to share our analysis with key stakeholders, either internally or externally. It's also meant that we could build kind of data connections that then other analysts can then use to build their own visualizations on. Some of the limitations are that the calculations are so annoying. If you're anything of a formula wizard in Excel or Google Sheets, then you will find the calculations quite limiting, and that can be quite annoying. The visualizations also seem a bit needlessly limited. They do add new ones in every now and then. It's also not the great tool for what I'd call data exploration. Well, you can certainly drag in your data and add fields to types of graphs, add filters in to do some exploration that way. That I just find other tools like Tableau seem to do it a lot better. But you could certainly give it a go. And the last one is somewhat a pain in our sides because the accessibility of the product is not great. And it is a big issue for us, certainly in government, in that we need to use fully accessible tools. And unfortunately, data products just seem to lag behind in the world of accessibility. Coming back to Tableau, they have started making progress in that area, but not seen that from Google in the kind of way I'd like. And so that is certainly something that we're not sure how to tackle, because it is such a great tool for sharing data, either pre-formatted analysis or windows into your database, but not quite as accessible. And that, in a nutshell, is an introduction to Data Studio. I will have a look at the questions. Yes, Rima, is there a way of making a dashboard private if analyzing sensitive data? Absolutely. If you don't share it, it will live in your personal Google Drive, and nobody else will be able to have access to it. You can totally control how it's shared, how many people. So you saw that I shared it with everyone on the internet, but you could say share it with only a domain. I'll run through those options. Just give me a second and I'll show you how you could go about doing that. Anyway, so sharing, so manage access, anyone with the link. Let's turn it off, only specific people, or only people in my domain, but I don't want that. I just want only specific people. And so if we save that, because we made that change, and only people who I enter in here. This will email them. So let's give my service account access. And do we have anyone? Okay, I prefer not these people not to get an email saying I've shared a weird thing with them. But Ian Ansell Insights service account will now be able to view this, but nobody else. Oh yeah, they don't actually have an active email address. Let's use personal one. Oh, no. Okay. So what this will do, is it will send. So shared with one person. And is there a way of restricting pages or sections? Not that I've seen. If the page is on the if the page is on in the dashboard, or if the section is in the dashboard, everyone would be able to see it who has access to view it. If they have access to the dashboard, they have access to the whole dashboard. Is a more succinct way of saying that. There are ways where you can, if your data contains an email address, you can collect the email address of the viewer and filter the data that way. It's not something I've ever done before, but it would mean that your data would have to have that email address in. Oh, which do I prefer? Now, there's a tough one. Well, I moved away from Microsoft just as they were making Power BI. So I don't think it's fair for me to comment on that, but it looks like a really great product. I'd say Data Studio for sharing, but Tableau for exploring. Yeah. I think that's where I would I think that's where I would go. So Tableau, if I had some new data that I had never seen before and somebody told me, show me something interesting about this data, Tableau would be by far my go-to. And a question from Cam. It looks like Tableau is better in many areas. What are the reasons you decided to use Data Studio? Is it purely accessibility or were there other factors? Data Studio is free and Tableau costs a fair amount of money, is the kind of blunt answer to that question, unfortunately. I would say Data Studio is nicer to share and nicer to collaborate on. With Tableau, you kind of need Tableau server in place unless everybody has Tableau Reader. So there's kind of this unfortunate area with Tableau where you kind of have to be fully bought in. Some areas of government do use Tableau. The newly formed CDDO, Central something Office, use Tableau, and I think we are looking within GDS whether or not we also start using it, but it's purely because we use the Google platform, we use Google Drive, we use Sheets, so we use Google Analytics, and I just think the connector between Data Studio and Analytics is just a bit nicer, whereas the Tableau one, I believe, uses an older API, which doesn't mean the data's any better. It just means that some of the field names it pulls through are better. So, yeah, I would like us to use Tableau because it would be another string to our bow, but it is quite expensive, and if we're already using Data Studio, the cost-benefit ratio needs to be looked at, being a public body. Question from Rima. If you want to generate versions of the same dashboard, filtered for a specific thing, for a specific person. Oh, that's a good question. To generate versions of a dashboard. I don't think you can automate that. The Google Apps Script integration with Data Studio is pretty terrible at the minute. I hope they improve it, but automating it through AppScript is not possible. So you just have to make a copy. So in edit mode, you can make a copy of a dashboard, but you then have to go in and in that new copy, change your filters. So add a filter, and then you'd need to share it. And then any changes you make on your kind of parent dashboard wouldn't propagate through, unfortunately. So I don't think there's a neat way to do that, Rima. Certainly not one that I've found. Just to add, I'm in no way an expert on Data Studio. I've just probably been using it too long. There's great resources out there if you want to learn more. Ben Collins is a person over on Twitter. He does great things integrating kind of the Google suite of products, Data Studio, Sheets, and just get an app script to get them to do pretty magical things. The accessibility issue. So when viewing a report, if I were a viewer, this front page of the dashboard doesn't have any of the accessibility features. So, for example, tabbing through to access different fields. You can't manually define the tab index, which it is purely based on whatever came first in the dashboard. So also you can't put alt text. So if I were to make a visualization, I could not put, there's no way to manually generate, to automatically generate alt text like you could in Tableau. So Tableau does a thing where it describes the visualization. I can't remember the word for it, but Tableau does this nice automated description. Tableau have also done various pieces of work on color accessibility, which isn't baked into Data Studio as far as I've seen. If they have baked it in, they certainly haven't told anyone about it. And also when it generates PDFs, those generated PDFs don't have alt text or any great accessibility features. So it seems as though accessibility hasn't been baked into this product, which is why kind of one of the big pain points for us in government, why we're kind of careful of using it. Hope that answered all your questions. Oh, Duncan says nice modular rack. That's that thing over there with all the buttons on. Because I want to live in a spaceship. So all in all, I would say a good product if used in the right situation. Tableau will do more for you, but for more money. And it's just very neat way of sharing. But I do look forward to the day that it becomes fully accessible. It becomes AAA or even AA. Are there any other questions? Did that cover off the accessibility question, Bridget? Just to make sure. But yeah. Give me a shout throughout the conference. I'll be around, or I missed I am on Twitter. Should you want to reach out afterwards?